All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to yet another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show under the new format. We are your hosts. I am Alex Baquero, and this is Christopher turning wine into water Condit. Your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmiest of lukewarm opinions. Everybody go like, rate, review, subscribe, all the things below. Chris, that was not an incorrect usage of the turn of phrase. I intended to say it in that order, and I don't think that you're going to be able to guess why.
I cannot guess why.
Science.
What's that?
Science.
I actually heard it the other way first, and I was like, wait a minute. I was gonna make another joke, but I'll pass it. We'll skip that one for today. But yeah, I heard it as if you were comparing me to Christ at first.
Well, you are Christ. Oh, fair.
Yeah, that is a comparison with which I am uncomfortable for a multitude of reasons.
You are the messianic figure leading this podcast.
I am but a voice in the wilderness.
How are you, friend?
I'm doing fine. It remains very cold. We talked about it on the last podcast. It's freezing. I didn't come here for this. It's just not for me. It's not for me anymore. I moved away from this. I don't need it. And it's going to stay for like a week. What are we doing here? It's annoying.
That is the thing. It's usually 45 within a day, and most everything kind of melts away. And most of the road in front of our house melted away, but there's still some pretty big patches of ice out there that one of my neighbors, you've actually never been to my house. No. So I live, the street in front of us is definitely a hill. Like, it's a significant incline. And one of the people at the bottom of the hill in the cul-de-sac, don't know him, came blazing by us in his pickup truck. And you saw the brake lights go on midway down, and he just a good 20, 30 yards. And I thought we were going to hear him crunch through somebody's mailbox.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was hurrying for. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got 4-wheel drive on that thing, boy. You know?
Classic pickup truck owner, in my opinion. No offense to my father-in-law. You're one of the
I always try to tell people 4-wheel drive don't mean 4-wheel stop.
Yeah, facts.
But it's just I've been down here, like I said, 10 years. I don't want the cold. I'm too old. I don't need it. And honestly, my kids don't even like it.
Your joints hurting, old man?
Yeah. My kids don't even like it, especially the youngest. She is not here for this, man. She'll go out for a few minutes and then she'll turn right back around and come inside. She don't want to mess with that.
She's all about the hot cocoa life.
Yes, she is. Very much so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Well, to a land that is famous for their cocoa, their winter views, all of that, let's talk about Austria and Red Bull Salzburg and the Austrian Bundesliga. Now, this game will not be played in Austria, if I remember correctly. I actually should have looked that up in advance. Let's see, full match schedule. Yep, it is at Villa Park. Thank God.
Let's go.
That's that one up. But we're still talking about an Austrian team, so it works. Don't at me. Chris, Red Bull Salzburg. Oh boy. Not a lot of info out there about the Austrian Bundesliga. Even less now that FB Ref has lost all their stats. By the way, screw you Opta and screw you FIFA for taking that away from FB Ref. You've really made our research a whole lot more difficult. Anyway, in the Europa League, they are 28th in the group stage. They're basically out of it. If they win against Villa and results go their way, I guess technically they could get up to 22nd, although I don't necessarily know who the teams ahead of them are playing where that could even potentially be possible or not. In Austria, they are first. They're dominating the Austrian Bundesliga as they are the only moneyed team in it. Other Austrian teams we might know. We played Rapid Vienna, I feel like, every year in the Europa League for many a year from like, what was it, like 08 to 2010, thereabouts. So In the Austrian Bundesliga, by the way, we're going to dive into this because this fascinated me. It's kind of like Belgium. They're up 3 points at the top of the table. There are actually only 3 matches left in what I guess I will call the regular season of the Austrian Bundesliga. The reason they are only 3 points up is because they draw a lot, 5 draws, but they score a ton. Their defense is basically on par with everyone else in the league. It's not even the best. It's second best with 21 conceded, but they have a plus 15 goal difference. And I think that speaks to the Red Bull way of playing that we know from Leipzig, that we know from New York Red Bulls here in the States. They all have that same philosophy: high press, high intensity, really exciting dynamic attacking play, kind of similar to the Jurgen Klopp gegenpress, all that kind of stuff. And so that speaks to their offensive dominance within their league. Now, this is the interesting thing. I said they have 3 matches left in the regular season. There are 12 teams in the Austrian Bundesliga. After the 22 match regular season, you play home and away versus everybody. The league is split in half. 1 through 6 go into the Championship League. 7 through 12 go into the Relegation League. They then play the teams in their mini league home and away again. Here's the wrinkle. The points you accumulate from the first regular season are cut in half and rounded down. So if you have 29 points, you go to 14. They're cut in half and rounded down before you accumulate points again, which means when this next round of matches starts, if they're only 3 points up, they're only a point up going into this championship round. And so the team that finishes 6th could theoretically be crowned Austrian Bundesliga title holders, while the team in 7th, who could have been level on points with them when this league was split in half, get relegated.
Could be, yeah.
It's psychotic,
Yep.
and I love it, and I want every league to do something like that.
There are a couple of leagues that do that. I think the Eredivisie does something like that as well, where they
might.
Yeah, where they split halfway through the year. So yeah, I appreciate the amount of work you put in on the Austrian Bundesliga, because there is not a lot out there statistically in terms of what you can find. And I was trying to do some research on Salzburg before this game, and the thing that jumped out to me more than anything, because as we've said, stats are lacking in terms of individual statistics in league, the age of the team is crazy young. I mean, you've got I didn't see many guys over the age of 25 on the roster, and there are a handful of teenagers, and I mean it's an extremely young group. So
leading goal scorer is an 18-year-old, I believe.
I'm not surprised they're struggling in Europe because that's such a big stage. Even if it's the second tier competition, it's not Champions League, but still you're playing very big clubs in a lot of cases. So I think the step up in competition from the Austrian Bundesliga just to the size of the moment is big and maybe difficult to handle for young players.
Yeah, and so you see the drop off statistically from the dominance that they have in Austria versus what they've been able to do in Europe. You know, they're sub 50% possession. We know that Red Bull likes to press high and dominate possession that way. They don't really shoot a ton, 13 shots per game, so they're not necessarily getting the ball in too many attacking positions. And defensively overall, they're not necessarily playing uber aggressively. Again, I'm just comparing to the Red Bull philosophy of a lot of challenges, a lot of pressing, all that kind of stuff. I compared them to Villa, and they have something like 17 tackles per match. Villa, who don't have a particularly aggressive defense, have 14. I would say Villa's kind of middle of the road, right? So like just a couple more challenges from a team that is typically behind and conceding a lot of the ball says that they haven't necessarily been able to get close to it to be super aggressive defensively either. Now, away from home, that actually shoots all the way up to 22 tackles per game. So maybe they are kind of flying in a little bit more when they're away from home. Probably also speaks to the fact that they're behind a lot more when they're away from home and trying to catch up a little bit more. So listen, fact of the matter is, this team is not very mature, not very old, and at least as far as the Europa League is concerned, not very good, right? They're not, I think, going to qualify for the knockout rounds. They've got 3 major injuries at defensive midfielder, center back, and right back, so a little bit cobbled together there. This is one that, regardless of who Villa trot out, they should run away comfortable winners in this
I
one.
would think so. I think the question sort of becomes, who do Villa trot out? Because we've talked in the past, in previous pods, about the injury concerns. Tielemans going down and presumably won't be available for this one. So your defensive midfield is very thin. I assume the defensive midfielder who's going to start in place of Yuri Tielemans is a backup right back in Bogard, right? So you can't start him to spell cash. Is Garcia available for the cup? I think that would be maybe the move. So
didn't he come on against Fener?
Yeah, I think he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He came on in like the 82nd
80
minute.
something. Yeah.
So I think the question becomes not, and I don't mean to disparage Salzburg here, but I think from a Villa perspective, the most interesting thing is, how much can you rotate the squad, and will you still be able to win with a rotated squad in this situation?
Well, so here's the question, Chris. Usually we save this for the end, but I think we've had this as a cold water take once before. Cold water, Chris. Villa are not a big game team.
I mean, I pour at least some cold water on that, because we've got some results in the previous year that say otherwise, and some results this year that would say otherwise, right? You beat Arsenal and Man City.
Yeah.
Those are big games. You beat Bayern, that's a big game. So you take PSG to the absolute limit. Didn't end up winning it, but that's a big game. You rolled your eyes.
I mean, so you've heard me say this before. We point at the PSG result a lot. Villa were down 5-1 on aggregate when they just kind of threw everything at PSG, threw formation and tactics out the window. It was just kind of like, make something happen. And I think PSG took their foot off the gas. To me, the big game of that tie was losing, what was it, 3-1 in the first leg, personally. I think being a team with nothing to lose and just kind of like going chaos ball, I don't know that that's quite as indicative of a big game squad.
What about the others, though? Bayern.
So listen, I think you're right to pour some cold water on this. I'm not going to argue completely against you, but you look at the FA Cup semifinal last year against Crystal Palace, didn't show up. You look at the fact that Villa have not won any cup competition under Unai Emery. Semifinal of the Europa Conference League, didn't show up. Yes, Bayern is a big game, but I think there's a difference between being in a big game where no one expects anything of you and being in a big game where there's like actual pressure.
So you're talking about stakes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think in games where there are significant stakes, with the exception of Club Brugge last year, where Villa absolutely dominated all 180 minutes, I can't really point to one where I think Villa have like really shown up and played fantastically. You could even say last year at the end of the league phase of the Champions League, when Villa needed the result to get top 8, they did get it, but they made it pretty damn difficult against Celtic. I wouldn't say that they necessarily like showed up and aced that test.
Sure.
So, this
is this a big game though? Is this a big game?
I think the top 2 is important.
I do. All right, that's fair.
So I think that there is some jeopardy if they don't get that second place finish. I don't think that this is a big game to the equivalent of those other ones that I was talking about, but there are stakes to this.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how we cope with that.
So to answer the cold water question, I pour a little bit of cold water, but you raise a lot of good points in the other direction. But I think my concern for this game is not are Villa big enough, or up to the challenge, but mentally, are they up to the challenge? Because it's going to be easy to write this off as one where you can just be better and win.
We didn't even mention Manchester United last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, they really screwed the pooch on that one. Yeah. So, like, I think the challenge here, like I said, though, is to convince yourselves and make sure that you know that even if this is not the highest level competition team that you're going to face all season, if you don't do your best, if you don't play your best, they can win, and that would be a bad result. So I think one of the things that I find interesting across sport is the way players and coaches are able to convince themselves and each other that any given moment that they can be beaten. And it doesn't matter if the team that the team that you're playing is not as good as you are in your preparation. And I'm sure that Unai Emery, because of the way he prepares and his maniacal, obsessive preparation, I'm sure that he has film or something on these players, on Salzburg, where he can say, look, watch this guy. He will beat you if you're not careful, because that's what every great coach that I've ever come across in my time in sport, they are masters at being able to get their players to understand that they need to execute to the best of their ability, because the guy across from them will beat them if they don't. If they're not prepared and they don't execute, they will lose. I think that the trick of a good manager, and I'm not saying necessarily that Emery has perfected this, but he may be close. The trick of a good manager is to get your players to understand that and not have them on a knife edge all the time. So it's a really interesting dynamic that you have to work.
That's a really good shout by you. So, Chris, what do you expect from Aston Villa in this game?
I think it's going to be a heavily rotated squad, or as heavily rotated as possible. I think that being at home, they're going to feel a little more comfortable with that than they would be going on the road. And I think I expect Villa to come out. I almost feel like if Salzburg tries to execute the game plan that they like to play, which is, like you said, heavy press, ball dominant, that could create real opportunities for Villa to play sort of the way we've seen for the last few games, where there are going to be chances behind that press. If you can execute the space behind, you're going to have opportunities to run. And so I think we could see maybe a continuation of what we've seen for the last couple of games against Salzburg. And if they don't come out and play that way, then you're going to see Aston Villa do what they typically do, which is dominate the ball through the midfield and hopefully end up on top. What about you?
Yeah, I also think that we're going to see a heavily rotated squad. I think Villa are going to see a lot of the ball. I think they're going to try and dominate it. I think because of that rotation, it probably will not be as quickly comfortable as we would like. I'm probably expecting a little bit nervier of a first 30 minutes, maybe
Murmurs
first
around
half.
the 35th minute. Yeah.
Yeah, we might get some murmurs. This might be another one where all of a sudden we get to halftime and realize that we haven't actually shot the ball on target or something like that. But I think even with a heavily rotated squad, Villa should be able to see this one out.
Yeah, I think.
And Emery has shown a willingness to rotate in the Europa League. You look at our center back pairing against Fenerbahce, right?
Yep.
Like, you bring in Lindelof and Tyrone Mings, who haven't played together all season long, and he was comfortable doing that because he thought they could get the job done. Fenerbahce is a much better squad than Red Bull Salzburg. I almost said Leipzig.
So do you think we see that same? I mean, just going to your squad, then do you think we see that same center back pairing? Because I have that again.
I do as well. I actually think that this might be one where Garcia gets the start. If he doesn't, I think it'll be a quick hook for Matty Cash on like 55 minutes, but he's just played so many minutes this year. If you can get an opportunity to rotate someone in, I say you do it, and there aren't really going to be any more opportunities where we'll feel comfortable doing that for the rest of this year. So give them a break. So I have Emi Martinez in goal. I have Garcia at right back, Lindelof, Tyrone Mings, Luka Dean, which honestly is a really strong back line, I think, all things considered. In the midfield, I think it will be Onana and Bogard. But honestly, I wouldn't hate George Hemmings getting a start if you did like Bogard Hemmings or something like that.
Bogart Hemmings sounds like a law firm.
It kind of does. I think similarly, though, if Villa can get on top, you'll probably see an early hook for Onana. Keep him fit, keep him healthy. And then in front of them, Morgan Rogers plays every week. He's someone that's not going to get a rest, so he will be in there. I think that Emi Buendia will be in there because we don't have anyone else to play on the left wing. Then you have Jadon Sancho probably starting once again because Leon Bailey is cup tied through the group stage to Roma.
Idiot had that.
And then you have Ollie Watkins up top.
So I have the same lineup. The only thing I have a question mark next to Emi Martinez because I do wonder if Bizot gets the start because of the recent back issues that Martinez has had, not including the one where he fell over at the 81st minute or whatever it was against Newcastle, but just to keep him a little fresher, I do wonder if they'll go to Bizot.
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah,
he's been.
But otherwise,
do you think Evan Gasson maybe starts up top to give Ollie Watkins a rest?
No, and here's why. I think that now that Watkins has seen the ball hit the back of the net a couple of times, I think that you're going to want to see him hit it again, And
you don't think they're still maintaining that knee injury, or do you think that the knee injury was BS the whole time?
I mean, I think you know my thoughts on it.
Chris,
I thought it was convenient that knee injury story came out when it did, and all of a sudden we don't hear anything about it anymore. So I think it was the club providing cover for the player. I think that this is an opportunity for Watkins to continue his goal scoring run. So I think it could be a quick hook, but I think you'll see him start.
What about Harvey Elliott? Is he even registered for Europe?
I don't think he is.
He might not be. I don't remember when he made appearances this year.
I don't think he is. I don't think he made it. We thought you were going to rotate. We both agreed on that. And so once you get into that, because of the injuries that the squad are facing, we don't have a lot of options from here. So once we agree on rotation, there's only so much rotating we can do before we're right back to regular starters.
Yeah.
So with that, we have our new segment, our European segment, where we pick the score while we sample wine from the home country of our opponent. So I have a Austrian Riesling. Austria produces a lot of sort of off-dry, almost dessert type wines, and this is a Riesling from Domaine Wachau. So it's apparently a huge winery, commercial winery in Austria. I did not, get this at some tiny little local shop that brought this in. This is distributed widely in the United States, like $23 a bottle at your big box wine retailers. But Riesling is not my favorite style, but I do like them on occasion. So I'll give this one a sample and we'll see what I come up with for a score. Very fruity.
Well, while you taste that, I will tell you that Harvey Elliott did get 5 minutes against Feyenoord.
How do I not remember that?
Because it was 5 minutes. I could make a very, very rude joke about remembering 5 minutes, but I will not.
I'll try and get this thing back on the rails. like most Rieslings, they tend to taste sweet in your mouth, not necessarily because of the acidity of the grapes, although some are very high acidity, because they're very aromatic, and they smell. Your senses trick you into thinking they are sweet. So this one tastes very sweet to me. Tastes like a 2-0 Aston Villa victory.
For anyone not watching on YouTube, I am physically restraining myself from making a joke off of what Chris just said there, and I will leave that up to all you people to guess.
I knew what I was
maybe
doing.
pop in our comments with what I was going to say.
I knew what I was doing.
I bet you did. All right, so I have and I need to make sure I pronounce this correctly, Blaufränkisch, which is a grape from Austria and the other Germanic regions up there. Red wine, deeper, full-bodied. I don't know, maybe more similar to like a cab kind of situation as opposed to some other red grapes that they have that are apparently closer to Pinot Noir. This is from the winery Lenz Moser. I don't know. It's somewhere between 13 to 20 bucks, depending on where you find it. I believe I paid about 17 for it, so it's right in the middle. Nice. It's very dry. I like the tannins. I don't get as much fruit as it says that it says I should taste on this, but it's got some solid flavor, a little bit of wood. This is a wine that I like, and so I will say that I think that is a 3-1 come from behind Aston Villa victory.
Now I'm holding back jokes. But we both pick wins, both by 2 goals. And anybody that can guess the joke I'm making in the YouTube comments, go ahead and, because you have to combine a couple of things Alex said there to get to my joke.
Well, combine or change.
No changing. No.
Yeah. Not, but
we don't need to worry about it.
We'll talk after this.
Yeah.
YouTube shout outs. Caden Schlick, Black Country Villain, as always. So happy you stuck with us.
Absolutely.
Big Walt, as always, and RG1U9P. We're going to pretend that's not a bot. But they actually did have a legitimate comment, so hopefully it wasn't.
Total real person, not a bot.
Not a bot. Not a bot. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, Bridget.
I appreciate that.
All right, Chris. Well, we will be back probably Thursday evening with our recap and our next match preview. But until then, as always, my friend, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.